The new employee, Charles, mistook me for a suspicious person and threw coffee at me. "What the heck are you doing?" I shouted. Fortunately, the coffee wasn't too hot, so I didn't have to worry about getting burned, but my upper body was soaked. The pure white work uniform I was wearing turned brown. When I glared at Charles, he just smirked. "Your uniform looks nice and dead brown." I couldn't bear any longer with Charles, who called me suspicious and threw coffee at me. Trying to settle things calmly and behaving humbly felt foolish. "Now tell the boss that all 30 company contracts are canceled." "What?" "My name is James Johnson. I'm 51 years old, and I'm the owner of a store specializing in outdoor sports, rainwear, and work uniforms. Our store, with a concept of functional and affordable new outdoor gear, has locations all over the country. Today, I came to discuss a collaboration product with an apparel brand. If we collaborate with a popular brand, our recognition among the younger generation will increase, and its importance will grow. I believe the business talk would benefit both parties, so I was quite confident about this meeting. I brought several prototypes for the meeting and wore one of the work uniforms as a sample. I thought showing the actual prototype would help the presentation go smoothly. I considered changing clothes after arriving at the company, but I felt awkward asking to use their changing room or changing during the meeting. After arriving at the company and completing the reception process, I headed to the meeting room. I had been here several times and was familiar with the location of the meeting room and the people I was meeting. Since I came here early, I decided to go to the nearest restroom from the meeting room to check my appearance and ensure the prototype I was wearing was clean. In the restroom, I checked myself from head to toe with the mirror. Among the prototypes was a high-functionality, gender-neutral outdoor item, which I was particularly proud of. This time it came in various colors, and I enjoyed the feel and material of the pure white work uniform. The work uniform, with excellent stretch and breathability, was also a popular item at my store. It was made from carefully selected materials to ensure it was comfortable and pleasant to wear. Seeing the result of months of brainstorming and trial and error with my employees made me feel our efforts were paying off. After confirming the prototype was clean, I left the restroom. On the way out, I accidentally bumped into a young male employee at the corner of the hallway. "Sorry about that. Are you okay?" The young male employee was holding a cup of coffee, so I was worried it might have spilled. I quickly looked him over and was relieved to see that no coffee had spilled. I gave a smile and was about to walk past him when, for some reason, he stopped me. "Hold on, dude." Being called dude caught me off guard. I never expected to be called that way at a business partner's place. I turned around to see the young male employee glaring at me with an annoyed look. Was he angry because I bumped into him? Thinking this, I tried to apologize again. "Ah, did I bump into you somewhere? I'm sorry for not paying attention." "No, that's not a dude. Which company are you from?" "Excuse me." His unexpected question threw me off, but I quickly responded, "I'm here today for a business meeting." The male employee sighed theatrically. Looking closely, I saw his employee ID, which read Charles Smith. "What kind of company has such lame work uniforms? Are you a suspicious person or a spy from a rival company?" "What?" I was so surprised that I gasped. But more than being mistaken for a suspicious person by this Charles guy, I was shocked that my pride in my work uniform was insulted. "No, I'm definitely not a suspicious person. I'm here for a business meeting," I hurriedly explained. But Charles looked at me skeptically. "A business meeting? No one wearing such lame work uniforms would come here." "Lame? This is a product I'm proud of, combining functionality and design." Having my pride in the product torn apart, I couldn't help but argue back. Then he smirked, marking, "I'd never make such tasteless clothes. You're a spy here to steal our ideas." "No, I'm not. Please believe me." No matter how many times I explained, Charles refused to believe me. He scrutinized my face and body. "A tasteless old man like you has no place in this company. Do you even know where you are?" "Of course I know. This is an apparel brand that boasts annual sales of billions of dollars, one of the biggest in the U.S. Their concept is to mass-produce clothes that look good on everyone, creating sophisticated products daily. They have stores nationwide and have even expanded overseas, with people worldwide wearing their clothes. Charles, too, was wearing clothes made by this company and seemed proud to be an employee here. "So you make clothes for this company too?" I asked, trying not to offend him. Charles proudly began to speak. "That's right. I just joined as a designer in April. I came here to make a name for myself with the knowledge and design sense I honed at art school." Since he joined in April, he must be a recent graduate. His unafraid attitude towards someone older might be due to his youth, or maybe he's just plain rude. That's admirable, actually. I run an outdoor goods store. I was about to explain who I was when Charles started talking over me. "I'm gaining experience here so I can someday showcase my clothes at international exhibitions. And eventually, I want to marry an overseas model and have her wear my designs." Charles was happily talking about his dreams. I hadn't planned to listen that long, but thinking he had let his guard down, I tried to slowly back away. Plus, I have a professional designer as my mentor, so I'll get more famous. You should remember the name Charles Smith, dude. "Sure, I'll remember your name." I slowly began to move away from Charles, trying to leave the area. However, Charles quickly blocked my path as if sensing I was trying to escape. "Hey, don't get away. You're definitely a suspicious person. I'm not letting you go." How can I prove I'm not suspicious? Caught by this strange employee, I felt at a loss. "Why are you so suspicious of me?" Just because my work uniform looks unfamiliar doesn't mean I'm a suspicious person. Of course, I'm suspicious. This company is a world-famous brand, and we never know when a rival might try to steal our ideas. Didn't you hear about that other apparel company that got hit by a data breach recently? I knew about that news. A rival company employee had infiltrated and leaked top-secret information from a famous apparel company. The spy was arrested, but Charles seemed to have become more vigilant after seeing that news. "You must be a spy hired by a rival company to steal our ideas. If you confess, I won't call the police. I'm telling you, you're wrong. I'm James Johnson, the owner of an outdoor goods store." I finally managed to tell him my name. Now Charles would understand who I was and calm down. "James Johnson? Never heard of him. Sounds like the name of a workwear company president, but you must be mistaken." "No, that's me." If he knew about the store, he should know my name as the owner. However, Charles just thought I was some old man with the same name. "I've seen a photo of the president, but did he look like you?" I thought he looked better. Charles scrutinized my face with a frown. His rude behavior towards someone he just met was starting to irritate me. "Hey, I've been thinking. Your attitude is unacceptable. Judging people by their appearance, calling them suspicious or shady. Don't you find that disrespectful? It's your fault for being misunderstood, dude. You're suspicious because you're wearing that work uniform. Unbelievable." Even though I warned him not to judge people by their appearance, Charles didn't listen. Instead, he shifted the blame onto me without acknowledging his own faults. "You're still young, so you should be more obedient. If you admit when you're wrong and apologize quickly, people might see you differently and trust you more." "I'm really here for a business meeting, but I won't tell anyone about this." I tried to speak as gently as possible, but this seemed to irritate Charles. "A suspicious person like you has no right to lecture me." He glared at me and threw his coffee on me. "What the heck are you doing?" Fortunately, the coffee wasn't too hot, so I didn't have to worry about getting burned, but my upper body was soaked. The pure white work uniform I was wearing turned brown. When I glared at Charles, he just smirked. "Your uniform looks nice in dyed brown. How can you do such a thing? It's inhuman." I couldn't believe he would do something so terrible as an adult. "Hurry up and wash it off, or your shirt underneath will get stained too." Charles mocked me as he watched. I couldn't bear it any longer. With Charles, who called me suspicious and threw coffee at me, trying to settle things calmly and behaving humbly felt foolish. "Now tell your boss that all 30 company contracts are canceled." "What?" I told Charles. "So what are you suddenly talking about? You think saying that will scare me into behaving?" Charles showed no fear and continued to be hostile. In his case, not being afraid of an older person wasn't courage, just plain rudeness. I've told you many times. I'm here for a meeting about a collaboration product. We've done business before, and my company is one of your valued clients. I tried to calm him down without raising my voice. However, Charles still treated me like a suspicious person and wouldn't listen. I showed him my coffee-stained work uniform. What you did to me is unacceptable. Throwing liquid on someone counts as assault, and if I had gotten burned, it would be even more serious. You understand why I'd want to cancel contracts with your company's subsidiaries, right? I glared at him, and while Charles seemed slightly shaken, he didn't show any weakness and remained aggressive. I run an outdoor goods company and own about 30 subsidiaries. If you're so insistent that you're the president, show me the evidence. Without solid evidence, I won't apologize. Charles was shouting at me to provide proof. I see, so if I show you proof, you'll believe me. But even if you apologize, it will be too late. I said this as I pulled my business card from my pocket and handed it to Charles. I run an outdoor goods store called Scotman Shop. Does that ring a bell? Charles's eyes widened as he took my card. You mean the president of that super famous outdoor goods store with advertisements everywhere? You really? Charles muttered in a trembling voice. Oh, you've seen the commercials? It's an honor to be recognized by an employee of such a famous brand. The more I smiled, the more Charles' expression hardened, and he started to turn pale. I brought this work uniform as a sample. It's a product I'm proud of, but now it's soaked in coffee. Can you take responsibility for that, Charles? Charles finally realized I was the president of a valued client and looked shaken. I don't mind that you suspected me out of loyalty to your company. If I had been a real intruder, you would have been a hero. But you didn't listen to my side and immediately labeled me as suspicious. This time, I believe you're at fault. At fault? You realize that insulting me and throwing coffee on me are offenses that can't be excused with just a written apology, even for a newbie, right? I reprimanded Charles in a stern tone. If one of my subordinates did what Charles did, I would have to offer a substantial settlement and apology to the offended party and possibly report the subordinate to the police. I'd likely have to step down as president to make amends for such an offense. It's not just about washing off the coffee or letting it dry. It's about the harm caused to someone's body or mind, which is a serious crime. This issue goes beyond just you and me. Since it happened at work, I have to report it to your boss and president. Hearing the words boss and president, Charles was visibly shaken and speechless. I believe you're a talented designer, but you lack the awareness of what it means to be a professional in society. I looked at Charles coldly. If you apologize now, I can still forgive you. I can tell your boss that the coffee was spilled accidentally when we bumped into each other. If you sincerely apologize, this matter can be resolved smoothly. I gave Charles a chance to apologize. Though he had insulted me greatly, he was still a young man who had just graduated from college. If he apologized and reflected on his actions now, it wouldn't affect his future negatively. In my heart, I hoped Charles would apologize. I was just trying to get rid of a suspicious person. What's wrong with being cautious of intruders? Despite my hopes, Charles justified his actions. And that business card? You probably picked it up somewhere to fake your identity. You almost fooled me because you look similar, but I won't be deceived again. Shaking off his anger, Kian showed hostility towards me again. I was stunned that Charles chose not to apologize. So you really have no intention of apologizing for your actions? I asked. I did what I thought was right, he replied. I see. That's unfortunate. If you won't believe I'm the president, that's fine, I said, trying to stay calm. At that moment, I remembered my appointment. The time for our scheduled meeting had long passed. Since I had received a visitor's pass at the reception, they would know I hadn't left yet. Maybe my business partner is looking for me, I thought. I decided to ignore Charles and find my business partner. I don't have time to talk to you anymore, I said. Sorry, but I need to find my business partner. Hey, wait, where do you think you're going? You think you can fool me with such a lousy lie? Charles shouted as I tried to pass by him. He grabbed my arm, blocking my way. Let me go, I said, struggling to free my arm. If you keep this up, you'll only add to your offenses. Being in his 20s, he was stronger. As we wrestled, I heard footsteps running towards us from down the hall. Looking in that direction, I saw Will Anderson, my business partner, rushing over. "President Johnson, what on earth is happening here?" he asked, out of breath. "I went to the meeting room and found it empty, so I've been searching all over the building." Will was relieved to see me and tried to catch his breath. "My apologies for being late to our meeting," he said. "I arrived early and used the restroom first." I glanced at Charles. For some reason, seeing Will made Charles start trembling. "Why is Charles here?" Will asked. "This is Charles," I said, gesturing toward him. Who had been so bold earlier suddenly shook like a scared kitten the moment Will arrived. Will smiled and explained, "I'm his mentor and trainer, though it's more of a part of the new employee training program, as our boss asked me to teach him." Charles, on the other hand, looked pale and was sweating profusely. His expression was more of fear than respect. He probably didn't want his mentor to see him in this situation. If Will found out everything, it wouldn't just be a scolding. "So what exactly happened here?" Will asked, pointing at my work uniform. The once pristine white uniform was now stained with coffee, ruining the sample. I hesitated to tell Will what Charles had done. I couldn't forgive Charles for refusing to apologize and reflect on his actions, but the unexpected arrival of Will made me hesitate as I debated whether to explain what had happened. Will looked back and forth between Charles and me. "Charles, can you explain what happened? Does the cup in your hand and President Johnson's attire have something to do with it?" Will asked. Charles' eyes darted around nervously. "Well, you see," he began, but his hesitation was obvious. "Be honest." Will's stern tone made Charles falter. It was clear that considering his age and career, Will was someone Charles couldn't defy. I watched quietly, hoping Charles would confess honestly to Will. I was just walking down the hallway, and we accidentally bumped into each other at the corner. Charles stammered. The coffee I was holding spilled on him. "Did you properly apologize to President Johnson?" Will asked. "I sort of did," Charles muttered. I was speechless at Charles' response. I couldn't believe he would lie, even to someone he respected. "President Johnson, is Charles's story true?" Will asked, turning to me. When Will turned to me, Charles looked at me from behind him with pleading eyes, silently begging me not to tell the truth. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Why should I cover for him? "Charles's story is a mix of truth and lies," I said. "What do you mean?" Will's eyebrow twitched in reaction. "It's true that we bumped into each other at the corner," I explained, "but the coffee spill was intentional. He treated me like a suspicious person and deliberately threw coffee on me." "Hey, I told you not to say that." Charles, clearly flustered, waved his arms frantically. Will listened to my explanation, then turned his unyielding glare towards Charles. "I told you to be honest. Did you lie to me?" he asked. Under Will's intense gaze, Charles shrank back in fear. I also urged Charles to apologize, but he refused to acknowledge what he did. I added. Will's eyebrows furrowed even more as he processed this information. "You always try to cover up or hide your mistakes. Haven't I told you to stop doing that?" Will's angry voice made Charles tremble. Will was usually very mild-mannered, but I didn't know he was terrifying when angry. From his words, it was clear that Charles had a habit of hiding his mistakes at work. He was probably afraid of getting scolded, but mostly he didn't want others to know about his failures. "I'm sorry," Charles finally muttered. "Apologize to President Johnson, not to me," Will prompted. "I deeply apologize," Charles said reluctantly. Hearing his apology, I sighed in exhaustion. "President Johnson, I am deeply sorry for my subordinate's rude behavior. We will compensate you for your damaged attire. Do you have any burns or pain anywhere?" Will also apologize to me, genuinely concerned about my well-being. I felt sympathy for Will, thinking it must be tough for him to manage a troublesome newcomer like Charles. The coffee was lukewarm when it spilled, so I probably don't have any burns, but I'll still go to the hospital just to be safe, I said. Hearing there was no pain, Will breathed a sigh of relief, but showed an expression of apology again. "Our company will cover all medical expenses. This is entirely my fault for not providing adequate training. I'm truly sorry." "No, you're not at fault at all," I reassured him. And actually, I have something I'd love to show you both. Will and Charles looked surprised. I turned up the sleeve of the coffee-stained work uniform and showed it to them. I intended to present this sample during our meeting today. Look at this, I said. This work uniform is designed so the lining doesn't stain, and it even neutralizes odors. Will touched the uniform and brought it close to his nose. You're right. I can't smell any coffee at all. The wet areas feel dry and not uncomfortable, and the lining isn't stained, so there's no coffee mark on your shirt. Exactly, I said, pleased with his reaction. Furthermore, this work uniform is made from a material that resists wrinkles even after washing, keeping it looking new. It's our company's pride and joy. That's amazing. Will enthusiastically praised my sample. Hearing his approval made the trip worthwhile. Who would wear such a lame work uniform? While Will and I were excited, Charles pouted, looking bored. I pour my passion into creating clothes. If even one person needs them, Charles, have you ever designed clothes with the wearer's feelings in mind? Don't underestimate me. I'm here to create more sophisticated clothes. When Charles shouted this, Will glared at him with a fierce expression. Sophisticated? You think your designs meet our clients' needs? You're just forcing your immature sense of style on them without listening to their requests. Do you know how many times I've had to apologize to angry clients because of your shoddy work? Gosh, Charles made a pitiful sound under Will's intense anger. I thought you were stubborn during training, never listening to others, but causing this kind of trouble is beyond disappointing. I'll report this to the president and HR to decide your punishment. No, please forgive me. I worked so hard to join this company because I admired you. I don't want it to end here. Charles pleaded with Will, almost in tears, but Will remained unmoved and unsympathetic. I approached the tearful Charles and said, "Thanks for proving how great this work uniform is. Because you spilled coffee on it, Will gave it high praise. Sorry. I'm sorry." Charles cried like a child and sank to the floor. Later, the company apologized and provided substantial compensation for the incident. I had told Charles to cancel our contract, but Will and the company showed sincere and respectful responses to me. Therefore, I sued him for assault but decided not to cancel the contracts with the subsidiaries and continue our relationship. Charles was fined $3,000 for the assault. However, he was soon fired for his rude behavior toward me, a valued client. The president and HR unanimously agreed that his actions were severe enough to tarnish the company's reputation and could not be overlooked. Will informed me that Charles had a strong attachment to his sense of style and absolute confidence, but tended to look down on others. During the entry test for the job, he had reportedly marked other new graduates' portfolios and got into minor arguments. His problematic behavior was a constant source of concern for his supervisors and colleagues, regardless of his exceptional design skills. Being part of a company requires an awareness of representing that company. Charles prioritized his sense of style over his responsibilities as an employee, which ultimately affected his future prospects. Even if he tried to work as a freelance designer, his attitude would likely prevent him from getting work. His dream of succeeding overseas seemed more distant than ever. A month after the incident, I had a meeting with Will. The quality of the work uniform that had coffee spilled on it impressed him and the other designers, along with the other samples. As a result, we successfully concluded the collaboration agreement, and the contract was finalized. From there, the project moved forward smoothly, and the product was launched in stores nationwide. The product quickly gained popularity and sold out, achieving great success. Will expressed his desire to collaborate on more projects in the future, making my work even more enjoyable. Other companies also approached us with collaboration proposals, indicating that our company will continue to grow further in the future.